Honda's most iconic bikes are being left to rot in showrooms, quietly pushed aside while dealers scramble to clear space. Riders aren't being told why, but the truth hits hard. These aren't just slow sellers, they're signs of a shift nobody's prepared for. And it's already happening nationwide. Number 7. Honda Fury. When Honda first launched its factory-built chopper, it aimed to capture a unique space between mainstream cruisers and handcrafted custom builds. At a glance, it looked like they had nailed it. The stretched-out frame, raked front end, and minimalist silhouette promised the chopper lifestyle without the maintenance hassle or wallet-shattering cost. But while the concept may have been ambitious, the result has left dealerships sitting on unsold inventory. Under the tank sits a 1,312 cubic centimeter V twin engine that produces 57 horsepower and 73 pound-feet of torque. It delivers smooth, low-end grunt as expected from a V-twin, and the throttle response is both refined and manageable. For cruising, it performs exactly as intended, predictable and calm. But that smoothness is also part of the problem. Riders looking at a chopper want a certain edge, a little rebellion in the way the bike sounds, feels, and rides. The Fury, by comparison, feels overly engineered. It's too tame for what it visually promises. Its braking and suspension setup consists of a single front disc brake and a single rear disc brake with a telescopic front fork and a single shock absorber at the rear. The suspension feels decent for city riding but begins to reveal limitations when the pavement gets bumpy or unpredictable. The overall ride quality leans more toward relaxed cruising than aggressive performance. Weighing in at 672 pounds, the Fury sits on the heavier side for a chopper-styled machine, which makes low-speed handling slightly awkward, especially for shorter riders. What really distances the Fury from its intended market is the styling. At first glance, it does mimic the look of a backyard-built custom. You get a low-slung stance, teardrop fuel tank, and wide rear tire. But look closer, and you'll notice how cleanly everything fits together, how the welds are too uniform, and how the finishes feel too perfect. This may sound like praise in another context, but in the world of choppers, that perfection backfires. Custom buyers want individuality. They want character. The Fury's visual polish makes it feel like a factory-made impersonation of something that's supposed to be raw and personal. Even more telling is the exhaust note. Where riders expect a snarling bark or deep loping rumble, the Fury produces a muted tone that lacks personality. There's very little visceral feedback from the engine and exhaust, and for those who ride choppers, not just for transport but for attitude, that's a deal breaker. It's not that the Fury is a bad bike, it's simply not what most chopper fans are actually looking for. With a starting price of $10,499, the Fury competes directly with stripped-down cruisers from other brands that offer more rawness, customization potential, and brand identity. Meanwhile, in the used market, buyers often look to custom Harley-Davidsons or even older Shadows and VTX that feel more authentic. And that leaves the Fury stranded in the middle, not quite custom enough for chopper fans and not versatile enough for the average cruiser buyer. And if the Fury felt too niche, the next Honda on this list struggles with the exact opposite problem. No clear identity at all. If you're wondering why dealers are quietly pushing these bikes out the door, it's because they know you're finally paying attention. Like and subscribe now. This is research they hope you'll never see. And leave your thoughts in the comments below. Number 6. Honda CTX 1300. Honda had high hopes for this machine when it first rolled it out. Designed to bridge the gap between a traditional cruiser and a long-distance touring motorcycle, the CTX 1300 was supposed to capture riders who wanted both comfort and performance without compromise. But in reality, it landed in a no-man's land, neither appealing to loyal cruiser fans nor winning over the touring crowd. From the moment it hit the showroom floors, the bike left buyers scratching their heads. The styling was bold, maybe even too bold, with a design that leaned heavily into modern lines rather than the timeless looks that many long-distance riders tend to favor. Underneath that polarizing bodywork lies a 1,260 cubic centimeter V4 engine that delivers 83 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers sound solid, But when weighed against the CTX's size and segment, they fall short of what many riders expected. This isn't the kind of engine that urges you to twist the throttle and head for the horizon. Instead, it's smooth and quiet, almost too polite for a bike that's supposed to offer grand touring capability. The throttle response is soft, and the acceleration lacks the punch needed to inspire confidence when passing vehicles or tackling elevation changes during long rides. Physically, the CTX 1300 tips the scale at 725 pounds, which makes it noticeably heavy, especially during slow-speed maneuvers or tight U-turns in parking lots. The braking system features dual front disc brakes and a single rear disc, offering adequate but not exceptional stopping power. Suspension duties are handled by a standard telescopic front fork and twin rear shocks. While comfortable for relaxed highway cruising, the setup struggles to keep the bike composed over broken pavement or in twisty conditions where a more dynamic response is needed. Riders looking for excitement in the curves are likely to be disappointed, and those wanting cloud-like comfort may find the CTX only delivers halfway. One area that drew early praise was the seating ergonomics. The seat is low and wide, offering good support for longer hauls, and the handlebars are placed in a relaxed, slightly forward reach that suits a more laid-back riding posture. However, despite the comfort, the wind protection is underwhelming. The fairing doesn't do enough to shield taller riders from wind buffeting at higher speeds, and the windshield is non-adjustable. That limits the CTX's appeal for serious touring riders who often prioritize customizable airflow and protection from the elements. Another critical issue is the bike's overall personality, or lack thereof. The CTX 1300 was marketed with a sense of innovation and crossover potential, but it ultimately lacks the character that draws riders to either cruisers or touring machines. It doesn't have the growl and presence of a traditional V-twin cruiser, nor does it possess the refined luxury and features of a full-blown tourer like the Goldwing. It lands somewhere in between, and in doing so, fails to establish a compelling identity of its own. For many buyers, it simply became a motorcycle that looked different, but didn't feel different in a meaningful or desirable way. The starting price of the CTX 1300 hovered around $17,000 when new. At that price point, buyers found themselves comparing it to motorcycles with stronger reputations, more extensive support networks, and better overall capability. Speaking of confusion, the next bike aimed for sporty performance but ended up priced far out of its weight class. We already sorted through the junk. Our go-to riding gear is in the description. Grab what works. Ride smarter. Number 5. Honda CBR 650R. In a world where performance, identity, and value must align perfectly, this bike manages to miss the mark in every category. Designed as a middleweight sport bike, the CBR 650R was meant to bridge the gap between beginner-friendly machines and full-fledged track weapons. At a glance, it looks like it should do just that. Aggressive bodywork, sport-oriented seating, and a full fairing that gives it a race-ready stance. But looks can be deceiving, and in this case, they absolutely are. At the core of the CBR 650R is a 648 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that delivers 94 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers sound decent, especially for a street sport bike, but when you put it up against the competition, it starts to lag behind. The Yamaha R7 delivers a punchier twin-cylinder experience with more low-end grunt, while the Kawasaki Ninja 650 appeals to entry-level riders with its comfort and versatility. The CBR 650R, stuck in the middle, lacks the precision of a supersport and the accessibility of a true beginner's bike. Its engine needs to be revved hard to deliver thrills, and not everyone shopping in this category wants to redline their machine just to have some fun. The suspension setup includes a 41mm Showa separate function fork, big piston in the front, and a rear monoshock that is adjustable for preload. Braking is handled by dual front discs with radially mounted 4-piston calipers and a single rear disc. These components are well made, but they are more good enough than game-changing. The chassis is built around a steel diamond frame, which helps keep the bike rigid but also contributes to its relatively high curb weight of 445 pounds. That weight becomes noticeable during quick transitions and spirited cornering, areas where a sport bike should shine. And while ABS comes standard, more advanced rider aids like traction control, ride modes, or a quick shifter are absent, which hurts its appeal in a market where technology is becoming standard even in mid-tier models. Visually, the CBR 650R does make a strong first impression. It borrows styling cues from the Fireblade series, which gives it a premium, aggressive look. Sharp fairings, angular lines, and LED headlights contribute to a modern appearance that looks fast even when it's standing still. However, the color options are limited and often uninspiring, and once you get past the fairing, there's not much else to grab your attention. It tries to be flashy without backing it up with the excitement or performance many riders expect when they see that aggressive design. Comfort-wise, the bike is more forgiving than a full super sport, but that's a low bar. The seating position is still forward-leaning with clip-on handlebars that can cause wrist fatigue on longer rides. The foot pegs are high enough to provide ground clearance in corners, but make daily commuting less enjoyable. For short bursts of canyon carving, it works. For extended weekend rides or daily commutes, not so much. Riders often find themselves wanting either more comfort or more edge, and the CBR 650R delivers neither. Priced at $9,949, it lands in an awkward financial bracket. It is more expensive than some naked bikes and beginner-friendly sport models, but lacks the excitement and equipment of higher-end machines. Riders with this budget can either spend a little less for more practicality or spend a little more for a true upgrade in performance and technology. That leaves the CBR 650R as a kind of showroom orphan. Well-made, good-looking, but lacking a clear purpose. If you think this sport bike has it rough, the next machine is even more surprising. A commuter-focused Honda that was supposed to be bulletproof, but riders just aren't biting. Number 4. Honda NC 750X. It was designed to be the ultimate all-in-one motorcycle, economical, easy to ride, and packed with clever engineering. On the surface, the NC 750X had the recipe for success. Upright ergonomics, practical features, and Honda's legendary reliability. But what was meant to be a do-it-all machine now sits untouched in dealership showrooms across the country, struggling to connect with any specific kind of rider. Despite its attempts to blend utility and adventure, the NC 750X now suffers from one of the worst fates in the motorcycle world. Buyers simply do not know what it is supposed to be. The heart of this bike is a low-revving parallel twin engine displacing 745 cubic centimeters. It produces 58 horsepower and 50 pound-feet of torque, sufficient for city commuting and light touring, but not exactly thrilling. That modest output, combined with its automatic dual-clutch transmission option, has led some riders to feel like they are operating a large scooter rather than a middleweight motorcycle. And while the engine is smooth and efficient, the lack of emotional engagement is what keeps many riders from truly connecting with the machine. From a technical standpoint, the NC 750X is built around functionality. It weighs 470 pounds and features a steel diamond frame for rigidity and durability. The braking system includes a single front disc with a 2-piston caliper and a rear disc with a single piston caliper, paired with standard anti-lock braking for added safety. The front suspension uses a 41mm telescopic fork, while the rear is a ProLink monoshock with spring preload adjustability. All of this adds up to a composed ride for everyday conditions, but not one that inspires spirited cornering or weekend adventure runs. Ground clearance and suspension travel are also limited compared to true dual sport or adventure bikes, making this model best suited for tarmac over trail. One of the most unique features of the NC 750X is its faux fuel tank, which actually houses a large storage compartment. This design choice frees up space and offers real-world convenience, allowing riders to store a full-face helmet or groceries without needing to add aftermarket luggage. The real fuel tank is located under the seat, helping lower the center of gravity and improving stability. Yet despite this clever design, many riders find the aesthetics of the bike too conservative or generic, lacking the visual identity that defines its adventure bike competitors. Price-wise, the NC750X starts at around $9,399, which puts it in a competitive middleweight bracket. However, when potential buyers compare it to bikes like the Yamaha Tenere 700 or even Honda's own CB500X, the NC750X starts to feel like a compromise. It's not as rugged as a true adventure bike, not as fun as a naked street bike, and not as plush as a full-size tourer. And that's precisely the problem. This bike tried to be everything, and in doing so became something very few people are asking for. That kind of indecision leads us straight into number 3. A model that tried to be a sporty cruiser but ended up in dealership limbo. Number 3. Honda Rebel 500 ABS. Honda intended the Rebel 500 Special Edition to offer a refined, custom-inspired cruiser straight off the showroom floor. On paper, it looked like a smart move, adding visual upgrades like fork gaiters, a sculpted headlight cowl, and a brown diamond stitch seat to give the bike some boutique flair. But in practice, those extras have not translated into enthusiasm from buyers. The reality is simple. Riders who want a Rebel usually want a blank canvas, not a pre-decorated one. The special edition costs more than the base model, but it fails to deliver any real improvements to performance, comfort, or ride quality. For experienced buyers, it comes across as an overpriced cosmetic package that misses what the Rebel lineup is truly about: simplicity, affordability, and personalization. At its core, the special edition shares the same power plant as the standard version, a 471 cubic centimeter parallel twin engine that produces 45 horsepower and 32 pound-feet of torque. It is liquid-cooled, fuel-injected, and known for being reliable and low maintenance. The engine has enough grunt for commuting and casual weekend rides, but it certainly does not excite those seeking long-range power or high-speed touring performance. Riders describe it as approachable, not thrilling, and while that is fine for new riders, the special edition name sets expectations that simply are not met once you twist the throttle. Supporting that powertrain is a minimalist chassis that keeps the bike manageable for all experience levels. The suspension setup consists of conventional telescopic forks up front and twin shocks in the rear. The ride is soft and compliant, but under heavy braking or aggressive cornering, the chassis can feel vague. The braking system includes a single front disc with a twin piston caliper and a single rear disc, both supported by anti-lock braking system. These brakes are adequate for the Rebel's weight, which comes in at around 416 pounds, but the bike lacks the stopping authority or feedback expected from a machine with a premium badge. For riders who are drawn to cruisers with more confident braking and firmer suspension, this setup will feel underwhelming. Styling is a major talking point with the Rebel 500 Special Edition, and unfortunately, that is part of the issue. The design tries to elevate the Rebel's look with a splash of custom inspiration, but it ends up confusing buyers about who the bike is for. Cruiser traditionalists are unlikely to be impressed by the brown seat and fork covers, while those looking for performance or sportiness are not going to stop and stare either. What results is a motorcycle that visually says entry level, but wears a price tag that suggests it offers more than it really does. Riders with an eye for value often look at the special edition and see a few accessories they would rather choose and install themselves, usually for less money and with more personal satisfaction. The Rebel 500 Special Edition has a starting price of $6,999, placing it uncomfortably close to larger displacement cruisers with more features and stronger road presence. It may be marketed as a style upgrade, but in a segment where authenticity and performance matter, that upgrade feels mostly superficial. But even the Rebel 500 does not struggle as much as this next model, which was once hailed as Honda's performance naked bike king. Dealers thought these bikes would quietly vanish. 15 minutes in, and you're still here. So don't let this research go to waste. Subscribe now and ride smarter. Number 2. Honda CB1000R. Among Honda's sportier options, this machine was intended to be a showstopper. A high-performance naked bike with premium touches and aggressive street styling, it was supposed to be the Japanese manufacturer's flagship in the neo-retro category. But somewhere between its price, position in the market, and rider expectations, it lost traction. Honda aimed to merge performance with unique styling, banking on minimalist bodywork and a muscular stance to attract both traditionalists and modern thrill seekers. But in today's market, that strategy just didn't stick. This motorcycle is powered by a 1,017 cubic centimeter inline-4 engine that produces 143 horsepower and 77 pound-feet of torque. It delivers a sharp, responsive riding experience, especially in the mid and top-end range. The engine is refined and silky, characteristic of Honda's high-revving inline designs, and its 6-speed gearbox offers crisp transitions, whether you're carving canyons or speeding through the city. But while the performance numbers sound impressive on paper, real-world feedback has been far less enthusiastic. A major issue with this bike is that it comes across as too subdued for its price. It lacks the auditory drama of a V-twin or the brutish personality found in competing models. Riders expecting a raw, visceral experience from a naked sport bike are often disappointed by how muted and over-engineered this one feels. There is no throaty growl, no mechanical aggression, just a clean, clinical performance that fails to excite. For riders who value character as much as speed, this lack of sound and fury is a deal-breaker. Despite being positioned as a premium machine, the electronics package is surprisingly underwhelming. It features ride-by-wire throttle, selectable riding modes, and traction control, but misses out on modern touches like cornering ABS, cruise control, or a quick shifter as standard. The digital dash is functional but unremarkable. At a time when competitors are pushing boundaries with integrated connectivity and adaptive rider aids, this model feels stuck in a previous generation. On the physical side, the bike tips the scale at around 472 pounds. It uses fully adjustable Showa-separate function big piston forks up front and a single Showa rear shock. The suspension setup does provide a solid balance between comfort and aggression, soaking up imperfections without feeling too floaty or too stiff. Braking duties are handled by dual radial-mounted 4-piston front calipers gripping 310mm discs and a single rear disc with a single piston caliper. Stopping power is firm and progressive, instilling confidence in aggressive riding scenarios. Its ergonomics lean slightly forward without being punishing, offering a comfortable enough posture for short touring stints or daily use. However, taller riders may feel cramped, especially with the slightly rear-set foot pegs. The seat is narrow and stiff, which becomes noticeable after about an hour in the saddle. Combined with the lack of wind protection, this makes the bike less than ideal for extended highway use. Then there's the price. Starting at around $12,999, this motorcycle finds itself in dangerous territory. For just a little more, buyers can jump into the world of Ducati, Aprilia, or even a fully loaded Yamaha MT-10. And those bikes come with more features, better electronics, and in some cases, far more character. In contrast, this one feels like a refined, polite option in a segment that thrives on boldness, raw edge, and risk. And if you think that's bad, our number one bike might be the most shocking of all, because it's a model you'd think would fly off the shelves. Number 1. Honda Goldwing DCT Tour. For decades, the Goldwing has been a symbol of long-haul comfort, engineering excellence, and luxury on two wheels. It earned its place in the hearts of American riders, not just for what it offered in terms of features, but for how effortlessly it delivered a full touring experience. The most recent version of the Goldwing Tour, equipped with the dual-clutch transmission, continues that tradition, with more tech and refinement than ever before, but that comes at a cost that's leaving many would-be buyers hesitant. At its core is a horizontally opposed 6-cylinder engine displacing 1,833 cubic centimeters. It produces 125 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers are strong and the engine delivers its power smoothly thanks to Honda's advanced fuel injection and ride-by-wire throttle system. The dual-clutch transmission, a defining feature of this model, offers clutchless shifting in both manual and fully automatic modes, providing seamless power delivery during both highway cruising and urban riding. However, the DCT system has alienated many of Honda's most loyal touring riders, who still prefer the mechanical engagement of a traditional manual gearbox. When it comes to comfort, the Goldwing Tour DCT leaves very little to complain about on paper. It includes a heated seat and grips, an electric windscreen, navigation, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration, and electronically adjustable suspension. The front uses a double wishbone suspension design rather than a traditional telescopic fork, which reduces fork dive under braking and makes the ride feel like floating over the pavement. The rear monoshock is electronically controlled and preload adjustable, optimizing comfort based on load and riding conditions. For braking, the Tour uses dual front disc brakes with 6 piston calipers and a single rear disc, all governed by a combined anti-lock braking system. These features make the Goldwing one of the most technically advanced touring motorcycles ever made. Despite all this, the total package weighs in at 879 pounds. That's a lot of weight for any rider to handle, especially when backing it out of a garage or maneuvering in a parking lot. While the weight contributes to highway stability, it's undeniably a challenge in tight spots. The bike's low seat height of 29.3 inches helps somewhat, but the sheer size of the machine can be intimidating. The design language has also become more modern and aggressive compared to past models, with sharper bodywork and a more compact trunk. Some say too compact, since the storage volume is significantly less than older generations. Another sticking point is that Harley-Davidson has made major strides in recent years with its Road Glide Limited and Ultra Limited touring models. Both offer comparable features, traditional styling, and a visceral V-twin character that resonates deeply with the older cruiser crowd. Combine that with the resurgence of full-dress American touring bikes and more affordable options like the Yamaha Star Venture, and the Goldwing finds itself wedged into a smaller and smaller buyer pool. On top of that, many veteran Goldwing owners are keeping their older models rather than trading up. The earlier 6-cylinder models from the 2008 to 2017 range still offer impressive reliability, comfort, and resale value, without the added complexity and cost of the DCT system or new infotainment suite. These aren't just motorcycles, they're warning signs. Comment below if you've seen these on showroom floors collecting dust. Like and subscribe for more videos like these.